I'm eating a lot of protein and vegetables and walking. That's what I'm doing. We're approaching the 200-pound mark.
Once known for his struggles and a past filled with heavy battles, Jelly Roll now stands as a man of total transformation. His appearance, his energy, and the way he carries himself have left fans across the world speechless.
For me right now, it's the mountain in front of me, and I'm learning. I'm taking it serious. I'm drinking a bunch of water.
The change isn't just physical. It has reshaped the story of his entire life. Now, every step he takes shows strength built through hardship. Join us as we explore the amazing rebirth journey of Jelly Roll no one expected.
I spent most of from 14 to 25 in jail. I spent like a ton of time. At 16, I was charged as an adult.
Stepping stones to success. Jelly Roll was born as Jason Bradley Deford in Nashville, Tennessee, on December 4, 1984. He grew up in a neighborhood on the southeast side of the city known as Antioch, where life was often rough but full of lessons that shaped who he would later become. His father, Horace Buddy Deford, worked hard running a wholesale meat business, but he also kept a side hustle as a bookie, which brought in extra money. Jelly Roll had 3 older half-siblings, 2 brothers named Roger and Scott and a sister named Shelby, who were already a part of his life as he grew into his own path. However, his mother, whose name was never shared publicly, had her own battles to face. She struggled with substance addiction and mental health issues, and those struggles often spilled into the home. Despite her hardships, she gave her son a nickname that stuck with him forever. Because he was a chubby kid, she started calling him Jelly Roll, a name that would later become his stage identity. Years later, as he found his way into music, he admitted that he preferred to be called simply Jelly, as if he was stripping things down to something more personal. Even though she faced many difficulties, his mother became the first spark that lit his love for music. She would often play artists like George Strait and Garth Brooks, and he would sit with her, soaking up the emotion in the songs. Through her, he picked up not only a love for country music, but also the ability to tell stories in a way that could move people. It was this influence that gave him the push to start writing his own music. By the time he was 9 or 10 years old, Jelly Roll had already written his first rap song. He wanted to create music that could bring out feelings in others the same way his mother's favorite songs touched her. As he got older, he threw himself deeper into music. By 8th grade, he was putting together mixtapes and handing them out in high school parking lots, determined to get his sound out into the world. Life took another turn when his parents divorced when he was only 13. That separation hit hard, and suddenly he felt a need to step up for his mother. With his father out of the house, he believed it was his responsibility to find a way to bring in money. So he began selling illegal substances. He didn't just sell, he also slipped mixtapes of his rap songs into their bags, spreading his music in places where people least expected it. Even as he lived through that rough time, Jelly Roll kept a strong bond with his father. Buddy taught him lessons that stayed with him long after. He showed him the importance of standing against racism and how to carry himself with dignity as a man. Those lessons became guiding points for Jelly Roll throughout his life. When Buddy passed away from cancer in March 2019, the loss cut deeply, but the values he left behind continued shaping his son. Jelly Roll's story began with hardship, but every piece of it, from his mother's struggles to his father's influence, from his first rap at 10 to handing out mixtapes in parking lots, built the foundation for the artist he would become. He carried the weight of responsibility early, and through it all, music was the one thing that kept pulling him forward. But his path to fame was never an easy one. Finding Redemption. Jelly Roll began running into trouble with the law when he was still a teenager. At just 14 years old, he was arrested for the first time. That early experience marked the beginning of a long chain of arrests that would follow him throughout his youth and early adulthood. Over the years, he would be locked up around 40 times for different offenses, moving in and out of jails as his lifestyle kept dragging him deeper into the system. Each arrest pushed him further away from a normal path and forced him to face consequences that weighed heavily on his future. One of the most serious moments in his early years came when he was only 16. At that young age, he was charged with aggravated robbery, a crime that carried very heavy consequences under Tennessee law. Although he was still a boy, the court decided to charge him as an adult. He had not even finished growing physically, yet he was suddenly placed in the same category as full-grown men who had committed violent crimes. The charge came with the possibility of 20 years in prison. But after the process played out, he ended up serving just over a year behind bars and was then placed on probation for more than 7 years. The punishment followed him long after he walked out of jail because Tennessee's rules on violent crimes left no room for flexibility. The charge stayed on his record permanently, and because of that, he lost rights that many people take for granted. He could not vote, could not volunteer in many organizations, and could not legally own a firearm. Around the same time, Jelly Roll was dealing with his own battles outside the courtroom. He had started selling illegal substances and was also using them. These substances became part of his lifestyle, making the cycle of trouble even harder to escape. His dependence on hard substances only pulled him further into risky behavior. But those experiences later gave him an understanding of addiction that he would use to help others. As he grew older and began to change, he started visiting rehabilitation centers, meeting people who were trying to fight their own addictions. He spoke to them about recovery and showed them that even someone who had been through years of mistakes could still turn life around. Unfortunately, his life reached an unexpected point when he was 23. That year, he was once again incarcerated, this time for dealing on hard substances. On May 22, 2008, while sitting in prison, he received life-changing news from a correctional officer. He had just become a father. The birth of his daughter, Bailey, became the spark that forced him to stop and think about the road he had been traveling. That moment created a shift inside him. He began to feel the weight of responsibility and realized that he could not keep living the same way. Not long after, he was transferred to the education unit in prison. There, he took the chance to work on himself by earning his GED. For someone who had spent years running in and out of trouble, that achievement marked a new beginning. When he walked out of prison in 2009, he carried with him not just freedom, but also a sense that he needed to create a better life. Years later, his story brought him back into the spotlight in a different way. The Tennessee Board of Parole reviewed his case during a long hearing in Nashville. After considering his record, his growth, and his impact, they voted to recommend a pardon for him. The recommendation was then sent to the governor, who would have the final decision. For Jelly Roll, that day meant more than just legal progress. It felt like recognition of his efforts to change. He had always spoken about how prison had forced him to rethink his life, and had even pushed him into music. Music became the tool through which he expressed his struggles and reached out to others who were stuck in similar cycles. Over time, he started speaking to prisoners and young people in detention, urging them to seek recovery through therapy, music, and second chances. There was also a practical reason why the pardon meant so much. His criminal record made it very difficult for him to travel internationally. Touring outside the United States required him to go through endless paperwork and legal steps, often needing entire teams of lawyers just to secure entry into certain countries. A pardon would open doors for him, making it easier to take his message and his music across the world. Jelly Roll's journey showed how someone could fall into deep trouble and still manage to pull life back on track. He has become a man using his experiences to guide others away from the same mistakes. He carried with him the weight of his past, but he also carried a determination to prove that change was possible. Every step he took showed that he was committed to walking down a different road, one shaped by music, faith, and redemption. However, that was not the only challenge he was faced with. The journey of 1,000 miles. Jelly Roll's story has never been free of battles, and one of the most pressing fights he has faced has been against his own body. For years, he carried the weight of addiction, the weight of childhood pain, and quite literally, the weight of his physical size. At one point, the number on the scale reached as high as 540 pounds, and it shaped the way he moved through life. It shaped the way he performed, the way he traveled, and even the way he looked at himself. For him, food was not just food. It was comfort, it was escape, and it was another form of struggle, one that had followed him since he was a small boy. By 2015, his weight had gone beyond 500 pounds. Doctors had even told him that the scale they normally used could not measure his size, and he was once advised to go to a truck stop or a meat processor to find a scale strong enough to hold him. That day carried a sting of embarrassment he could not forget. He had always been known as Jelly Roll, a name his mother had given him as a child. But as he grew older, the nickname stopped being funny. It became a reminder of how much he had been carrying for long. Although, through his music career, his weight never stopped him from stepping on stage. He would often remind himself that he could still make it in the business, even if people said he was too heavy or that his voice was not right for the music world. He proved them wrong. Yet, deep inside, he did not feel good about it. He admitted that for many years he found a way to cover up the pain. He tried to find worth through women, thinking that if he could date attractive partners, then maybe people would not look at him as just the big guy. But inside, the discomfort never went away, not until the turning point came in 2016. He decided he had to start losing weight. He wanted to fight back against the thing that had haunted him since childhood. He changed his lifestyle, and he dropped 200 pounds. For a while, the progress lifted him. He felt stronger, more capable, and more alive. But the road was not straight. Touring life, constant travel, late nights, and the endless temptations of food and drink pulled him back. He gained 60 pounds again, and the cycle of frustration returned. Still, he refused to give up. He told himself that every time he stumbled, he had to stand back up and fight again. As he pushed forward, he used his platform to hold himself accountable. In 2018, he opened up online about his weight and admitted that he was miserable with the way things were. He listed the things he wanted to do in life. These were experiences many take for granted, but for him, they were locked away because of his size. He wanted to live differently, to enjoy those things, and to rebuild his relationship with food. The years that followed were a mix of ups and downs. He worked out, he meditated, and he tried to eat better. In February 2003, he told his fans that he was fully focused again on losing weight, making music, and making sure that he brought the best version of himself to the stage. It was not just about looking better, it was about being better, about being healthy enough to live longer, perform stronger, and inspire people who were also facing battles with their own demons. undergoing transformation. By the beginning of 2024, the changes became clear. He started training for a 5K race in January, something that seemed impossible just months before. At the start, he could not even walk a single mile without feeling exhausted, but he stuck with it. Day after day, he walked, then jogged, then ran. 2 to 3 miles at a time, 4 to 6 days a week. Every piece of the routine added up, and by April, he had already lost more than 70 pounds. In May, he crossed the finish line of his very first race, an overwhelming moment for him because he knew where he had started. Just months earlier, walking 1 mile had been a struggle. Yet here he was, completing over 3 miles. That sense of victory filled him with a deep drive to keep going. It was no longer about just losing weight. It was about proving to himself that he could set a goal and reach it. The 5K race was just the start, and he announced that he was planning to take on a half marathon next. The transformation shocked many who had followed him for years. When he stepped out at the Academy of Country Music Awards in May 2024, the difference was clear. Fans saw a slimmer, more energized man who had worked hard to change his life. The man who once topped 540 pounds now carried himself differently, not just in appearance, but in spirit. The numbers kept changing as he pushed forward. By April 2025, his weight had dropped to 357 pounds. That meant he had shed nearly 200 pounds from where he started. But he wasn't finished. He set his eyes on another 100 pounds, with the dream of going skydiving with his wife in Sweden once he hit that goal. He also spoke of wanting to land on the cover of Men's Health magazine by the following year, a bold target that showed how serious he was about staying the course. Even as the victories stacked up, Jelly Roll remained honest about the ongoing fight. He knew he had to stay disciplined, drinking water, sticking to workouts, using the cold plunge, and watching what he ate. He admitted that late nights were still the hardest, those moments when food cravings spiked. He called himself a food addict, and he understood that it was not something he could ignore. He had to approach it the same way he had approached substances and alcohol in the past, with strict choices and hard limits. His relationship with food had always been linked to his emotions, his mental health, and his past. He said that people often thought obesity was just about eating too much or not exercising, but for him, it went farther. It was about trauma, about pain, and about the way he coped with life. To change his weight, he had to change the way he thought about food itself. He had to reshape his environment, cutting out snacks in his green room and removing temptations that could drag him down. At times, shame crept in and pulled him into what he called a spiral. Those moments were the hardest, but he reminded himself that he had a support system. He leaned on the people around him, and he tried to hold on to the small lessons. They helped him feel stronger, lighter, and more hopeful. His progress was not only measured on the scale, it was seen in the way he lived. He performed on stages with more energy than ever. He traveled with a new sense of freedom. His body was changing, but so was his spirit. Jelly Roll's journey showed that health is not a straight path. It is full of struggles, setbacks, and moments of doubt. But it is also filled with victories, breakthroughs, and the joy of reaching milestones that once felt impossible. He has proven that even the heaviest burdens can be lifted with persistence and will. His fight is not over, but each day he continues to push forward, determined to live the life he once only dreamed of. Interestingly, all these would not have been possible without the help of someone. A love that heals. In 2015, After finishing a show at the Country Saloon in Las Vegas, Jelly Roll crossed paths with model Bunny So. Their meeting was quick, but strong enough to leave an impression. At the time, Bunny was already seeing someone else, yet she and Jelly Roll stayed in touch. Slowly, messages and calls turned into something more. The friendship grew into love, and soon after, they began dating. A year later, on August 31st, 2016, Jelly Roll decided to take their bond to the next stage. While at a Yellow Wolf and Deftones concert in Las Vegas, he proposed. That same night, they walked into a courthouse nearby and tied the knot, sealing their relationship in an unexpected but powerful way. Their marriage, however, did not run smoothly in the beginning. In 2018, they went through a breakup, stepping away from each other for a while. Still, fate pulled them back together. On a trip to Colorado, they reconnected, and this time their bond grew even stronger. By the next year, Bunny started her popular Dumb Blonde podcast, and through it, she found her own voice and space. She also became deeply involved in Jelly Roll's family life, shaping the way he connected with his children and helping him rebuild relationships that once seemed broken. Before marrying Bunny, Jelly Roll already had 2 children from past relationships. His daughter, Bailey Ann, was born in May 2008. At that time, Jelly Roll was behind bars and only learned about her birth while serving his sentence. It wasn't until her second birthday in 2010 that he finally met her. The road to being part of her life was not easy. Her mother, Felicia Beckwith, wanted proof that he could stay consistent before allowing visits. Step by step, he worked to prove himself, showing up whenever the court allowed. At first, he was granted just a few hours on Fridays, with restrictions on how long Bailey could stay. Over time, through repeated visits to court and constant effort, he showed that he was changing for the better. Music and fame were not part of his plans then. His only focus was becoming a good father and gaining his daughter's trust. When Felicia later struggled with addiction and faced prison time, Jelly Roll stepped in to gain custody of Bailey. Bunny supported him through the process, becoming a stepmother and standing by his side. What made the situation unique was how the family managed to stay on good terms. Bunny even invited Felicia onto her podcast in 2020, proving that their bond was not built on bitterness, but on working together for Bailey's good. Now a teenager, Bailey has followed in her father's footsteps, stepping into music as both a singer and songwriter. She appeared with him in the Tears Could Talk music video and even performed live with him, surprising fans with her talent. Meanwhile, Jelly Roll's second child, a son named Noah, was born in August 2016, around the same time Jelly Roll married Bunny. Unlike with Bailey, most details about Noah were kept private. Jelly Roll chose to step back, supporting his son's mother, Melissa Ann Cowell, as she built her life with Noah. His role with his son was more about helping from the sidelines, unlike his full-time parenting with Bailey. In 2023, he spoke a little more openly, explaining how different the two roles were. Bunny, too, became a part of Noah's world and introduced him to fans through a TikTok video, showing their blended family in a warm way. As their marriage matured, Jelly Roll and Bunny began to think about expanding their family. In June 2024, they shared that they were exploring in vitro fertilization as a way to have a child together. By March the following year, Bunny revealed through social media that she had already begun treatment. It showed how far their relationship had come, moving from struggles and separations to building dreams together. Their home life also saw major changes. In November 2023, they moved into a large new house in Nashville. Bunny shared updates online, showing the renovations and the effort they put into shaping the house into a home. The couple poured their energy into creating a space that reflected both of their personalities. Through it all, they built not only a marriage, but also a family structure that continued to grow stronger with time. Meanwhile, Jelly Roll's career was not left behind. Living through music. From 2010 to 2015, Jelly Roll lived inside a van while chasing his dream of making music. He had just come out of prison and did not have much, but he carried a strong drive to push forward. To make his name known, he recorded a raw freestyle clip and uploaded it on YouTube. In that freestyle, he rapped about his life on the streets, substance dealing, and his time behind bars. That short video began to spread and soon caught the attention of rapper Lil White. At that time, White was starting his own record label and decided to bring Jelly Roll into a project. Together with another rapper, BPZ, they formed a group called S&O and worked on the 2011 album Year Round. This collaboration opened doors for Jelly Roll, but what made it more important was White recognizing Jelly Roll's singing voice, even though Jelly Roll did not fully know how to use it yet. That encouragement gave him another path to explore beyond rapping. In 2011, he joined forces with Nashville rapper Haystack, and their album Strictly Business reached number 67 on Billboard's top R&B hip-hop albums chart. 2 years later, he worked again with Lil White on No Filter, which went further, climbing to number 17 on the top rap albums chart. By 2017, Jelly Roll teamed up with Struggle Jennings, the grandson of country legend Waylon Jennings. Together, they released Waylon and Willie, blending country themes with rap energy. The album was so well received that they expanded it into a series, releasing 3 more parts over the following years. Jelly Roll often added bits of singing to these projects, but he still hesitated to step fully into that role. That changed when he wrote and recorded a song that shifted his career. In May 2020, he wrote Save Me and posted it to YouTube within 2 days. This track was different because it carried no rap verses. It was built around his voice, his struggles, and his emotions. The song spoke about hopelessness, and listeners related to it. Music executives also noticed, with many seeing it as a strong country song. This turning point showed how his storytelling and voice could reach beyond rap audiences and bring him into a new space. His rise continued, and on November 9, 2021, Jelly Roll made his Grand Ole Opry debut. In July 2022, he shared the stage again at the Opry with Craig Morgan. Around the same time, his rock single Dead Man Walking climbed to number 1 on rock radio. The following year, in January 2023, his first country single Son of a Sinner reached number 1 on country radio. The track, co-written with Ernest and David Ray Stevens, also broke into the Billboard Hot Rock and Alternative Songs chart. His career momentum grew even stronger when he set a record with 25 consecutive weeks at number 1 on Billboard's Emerging Artists chart. By December 2022, he had reached a milestone by selling out Nashville's Bridgestone Arena to a crowd of 15,000 people. That night, he shared the stage with well-known artists like Chris Young, Sam Hunt, Riley Green, Struggle Jennings, and even rap stars Tech N9 and Chris Calico. In 2023, he carried out a massive 44-city tour called the Backroad Baptism Tour. At the CMT Music Awards that same year, he walked away with 3 major honors for Son of a Sinner. Later in June 2023, he released his 9th album, Whitsit Chapel, which included the single Need a Favor. In November that same year, he was crowned New Artist of the Year at the Country Music Association Awards. his journey did not stop at music alone. In January 2024, he testified before the United States Congress in support of anti-substance laws, speaking from his own past as someone once caught up in the trade. A few months later, he faced a legal battle when a Pennsylvania wedding band called Jelly Roll sued him for trademark issues. The matter ended with a settlement. Jelly Roll kept breaking into new areas. In June 2024, he was featured in the country documentary Rebel Country, which even opened with a reenactment of his arrest. In July of that year, Eminem sampled his song Save Me for the track Somebody Save Me on his album The Death of Slim Shady. Jelly Roll appeared in the music video, marking a huge crossover moment. That same month, he performed internationally for the first time in Ontario, Canada. Soon after, he announced his 10th studio album, Beautifully Broken, released in October. He also began appearing on screen. In September 2024, he acted in the drama series Tulsa King alongside Sylvester Stallone, performing a rendition of I Am Not Okay. That same month, he became the first musical guest of Saturday Night Live's 50th season, performing songs like Liar and Winning Streak. He later appeared in the SNL 50, the Homecoming concert, where he sang a Johnny Cash medley backed by The Roots, and even joined Snoop Dogg on stage. In November, he released Run It for the Sonic the Hedgehog 3 soundtrack, followed by a music video in December. In 2025, he teamed up with Christian artist Brandon Lake on Hard Fought Hallelujah. Their version went on to win Song of the Year at the K-Love Fan Awards. Soon after, he was featured on Shaboozie's track Amen in April 2025, and by August, he had another collaboration with Marshmello on Holy Water. From living in a van and uploading freestyles on YouTube to performing at sold-out arenas and winning top awards, Jelly Roll kept pushing forward. Each chapter of his career showed how he turned his troubled past into music that touched millions, crossing boundaries between rap, rock, country, and gospel, while still carrying his story with him everywhere he went. If you enjoyed this video, like and subscribe, and also click the next video shown on your screen.